This One's Wife, the terror of irrelevance. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. A site called Reality T tells us this one's wife terrified of becoming irrelevant after Netflix deal falls through. This one's wife may have been worried about becoming irrelevant amid her Netflix deal falling apart. Earlier this year, the Duchess of Sussex confirmed her reality show, With Love Meghan, was going to return with the second season, or as we all know, part 2 of season 1. It was expected to air later this year. However, the multi-million-dollar deal is set to expire in September and won't be renewed afterwards. Apparently, this one's wife is now panicking and has begun seeking new projects. It's been suggested that she's doing so as a consequence of the end of the contract, and she's working towards landing her next gig. An insider reported that she's terrified of fading into irrelevance. The reports alleged that at this point, this one's wife would even be open to taking a hot topic seat next to Whoopi Goldberg if they let her. Apparently, this one's wife needs a new hit. Well, I think a hit is what she's after because she hasn't really had any, and that they need it, or rather she needs it, fast. Now, it's certainly the case that the cessation of this deal is problematic for this one's wife, as I have explained in a separate video. It's also the case that there doesn't look like there's much on the horizon that's available for her, as she has tried so many different roles and failed at them, that as a consequence of unpopularity and the fact that people are not going to want to waste their money signing up somebody that is going to fail, opportunities are thin and few between. Accordingly, where does this leave this one's wife with regard to the possibility that she's sliding towards irrelevance? Some of you might argue, well, she's irrelevant already, but with a strict view of that, she's not, because she's still spoken about and written about by lots and lots of people. You might regard her as irrelevant in terms of an influence upon philanthropy, or upon fashion, or upon content creation, and there'd be far more force in your observation in that regard. But she's not yet hit irrelevance. But if she were to, is that a problem for her? And is she aware of this risk and what it means? As you know, what this one's wife projects to the outside world is a construct, an edifice that has been built to conceal a yawning void. You see, this one's wife isn't like the majority of you listening to me. You've got a capacity for self-reflection. You have inner security, but not this one's wife. She's an empty vessel that's sustained only by the fuel of attention, admiration, approval, hatred. Without this fuel levels drop so that this one's wife would face the abyss, the horrifying truth of her own insignificance. Her every action, her every public gesture, her every involvement with another human being is an instinctive bid driven by her narcissism to secure the lifeblood of fuel, which is necessary to keep the void at bay. Relevance to her isn't just a loss of fame, it is the death of the self that her narcissism has meticulously constructed. Her journey from mediocre actress to royal to Instagrammer has been an interesting exercise in seizing the spotlight. Consider her trajectory. As Rachel Zane in Suits, she was a supporting player. She wasn't the star, she was 6th on the call sheet. Yet even then, her ambition, harnessed by her narcissism, burned bright. Her social media presence was there, a tapestry of philanthropy, lifestyle and allure. The leap to royalty through her marriage to Prince Harry, she portrayed as a love story, but it wasn't. It was a strategic assertion by her narcissism to get to the global stage. As Duchess of Sussex, she achieved a title, a platform, a megaphone, and oh, how she's wielded it. But relevance is a fickle mistress. This one's wife recognizes that inherently. The world's gaze is fleeting, its adoration transient. Her departure from the royal family, her so-called Megxit, wasn't actually fully a retreat. It was a withdrawal to nullify threats to control, but it was a gambit because she sought control to redefine her relevance on her own terms. The Netflix deal, the Spotify podcast, the children's book, as ever, they're all threads in the tapestry of her ongoing quest to remain seen, heard, to remain relevant. Yet beneath all of this, there is the abyss waiting, the fear of irrelevance. Its appearance is fleeting, particularly when fuel becomes low, and then it's dismissed as the narcissism tells her, like a stooge whispering in her ear, you do matter, you are relevant, ignore that, it's irrelevant, pun intended. The fact is that irrelevance is a huge problem for the narcissist. For to be irrelevant means there is no reaction. For there to be no reaction means there's no fuel. And for there to be no fuel, there is no lifeblood. Control becomes all the harder to achieve. The construct falls apart. Accordingly, irrelevance is the death knell of the narcissist. And thus, while she will regularly tell herself that she is relevant, because her narcissism causes her to think that way, there will be moments where she doesn't accept that she's irrelevant. She will never do so. But what happens is that she will get a glimpse, a fleeting moment of the cold chill of irrelevance, which her narcissism then immediately beats back and encourages her to fight all the harder against it. That dread terror of irrelevance makes its presence known, albeit for a moment, and basically says to her, you do not matter. Irrelevance means that this one's wife would lose her lifeblood, fuel. She thrives on being the centre of the narrative, whether as a royal rebel, a humanitarian beacon, or a polarising figure. Every headline, every tweet, every whispered conversation about her is a pulse of life. Irrelevance would cut off this fuel, leaving her gasping in the void. Imagine it. No cameras, no interviews, no trending hashtags. The silence would be deafening, a suffocation of the self. You see, everything that she does is orchestrated by her narcissism. The Oprah interview, the Archetypes podcast, as ever, the public appearances. These are lifelines designed to keep the fuel flowing. To be irrelevant would mean that she would starve. Her facade would collapse. This is a glittering mask of perfection that conceals her inner fragility. Her facade is multifaceted. The poised actress, the compassionate philanthropist, the wonderful and devoted mother, the dedicated wife, the modern feminist. Each role is a brick in the edifice of her public facade, but irrelevance threatens to crumble this construct. Without an audience to reflect her grandeur, the facade begins to crack, revealing what is beneath. Naturally, the narcissism cannot bear this exposure. Every new venture, be it lifestyle, brand or charity initiative, is a desperate attempt to reinforce her facade, to prove that she is what she tells you that she is. To fade from view is to risk the world seeing her as she truly fears that she is. Beige, ordinary, irrelevant. She has an obsession with being the best, the most, the only. When she was in the royal family, she stood shoulder to shoulder with Catherine, now Princess of Wales, a comparison that fueled both her ambition and her insecurity. Now, seeing herself as a global figure, she competes with the broader pantheon, the likes of Oprah, Beyoncé, even the memory of Diana, Princess of Wales. Irrelevance for her would mean losing this game of comparison, being relegated to the sidelines while others shine. She cannot tolerate being outshone. Her relentless pursuit of new platforms, books, TV shows, jam jars is a bid to stay in the race, to ensure her star burns brighter than the rest. To be forgotten is to be eclipsed, and for her, that's a fate worse than death. Irrelevance threatens her control. Her public life and her private life is all about control. Scripting a narrative, orchestrating appearances, curating an image. From the Instagram posts of her pre-royal days to the polished Netflix documentaries, her narcissism acts to shape how the world perceives her. Irrelevance would strip her of this control, leaving her at a loss to dictate the story. For her, this would be powerlessness, and it would leave her vulnerable to the whims of others, casting her back to when she was that vulnerable child. Her ongoing projects, the leaks to friendly media, her public feuds, these are all attempts to keep her hand on the wheel, to steer the narrative away from the abyss of obscurity. Irrelevance would wound her, for it encapsulates that secret fear. They are not enough. How many times have we heard this one's wife say, "You are enough"? But deep down, that is what is feared, that she is not enough. Each rejection, each criticism is a dagger to her narcissistic core, and irrelevance would be the ultimate rejection, a collective turning away by the world that she seeks to dominate and control. Her response to this threat, a relentless campaign to reassert her relevance, to prove she can't be dismissed. The Monty Shit Show mansion, the attempts at A-list friendships, the humanitarian gestures, they all scream, "I am still here, you cannot ignore me." Yet, the terror of irrelevance manifests, because what if they do ignore her? This is why she's a chameleon, ever shifting to maintain relevance. Her reinventions are legion, from actress to royal, from royal to rebel, from rebel to entrepreneur. Each shift is a pivot, a new mask to try and keep the audience captivated. As ever, with its useless spreads and lifestyle aspirations, is all about a rebrand to remain a cultural touchstone. For her, stagnation is death. And as a consequence of her inability to focus on anything because of her style of narcissism, but she then can't just live contentedly and quietly because that is stagnation. She has to move on to the next thing. She needs to pit factions against one another to keep herself at the centre. Her feuds, whether with the royal family, the media, or unnamed detractors, are deliberately orchestrated by her subconscious narcissism to fuel controversy, because controversy is fuel. It keeps her name in the headlines. By casting herself as the wronged heroine, the misunderstood trailblazer, she ensures that the world keeps talking about her. Irrelevance then cannot take root when the discourse revolves around her. Philanthropy is a mid-range narcissist's favourite cloak, and this one's wife certainly wields it. Her work with Archwell, her advocacy for women's rights, her publicised acts of charity, these are not altruism, they're fuel-gathering exercises, the management of the facade. She utilises good deeds to garner admiration, to position herself as indispensable. It is an effort to remain relevant by aligning herself with causes that resonate, ensuring that she remains a figure of moral authority in the public eye. She does the dance with the media. Her interviews, her partnerships with sympathetic outlets, her carefully timed leaks are all designed to keep her story alive. For instance, the Oprah interview was placing her on a global stage to reassert her relevance and reshape her narrative. As I've told you many times before, love me, hate me, but never ignore me. For to be forgotten, to be irrelevant, is the death knell. Her relevance is waning, and this is why we've seen an escalation in her ventures. They've grown bolder, more personal revelations, more ambitious projects, more audacious claims. The Netflix series, What Was Exposed in Spare, which we know she wrote most of. The lifestyle brand, they're all escalations in her war against obscurity as she rages against irrelevance. She cannot afford to rest. For the moment that she pauses, the world's gaze shifts, and her relentless output, crap as it is her defence against this threat. Ultimately, beneath it all, there is that terror of irrelevance. She doesn't feel it repeatedly or daily, but it's there, and from time to time it makes its presence known. She's a woman who's tasted the heights of global attention. A brush with Hollywood, a brush with royalty, activism, and now she faces that difficult task of maintaining that peak, and she's failing. Every post, every project, every public appearance is a battle against the abyss, a desperate bid to keep the fuel flowing, to maintain control, to keep the facade intact, to keep the narrative hers. But the problem she has is no amount of fuel is never enough. The void within remains, and the fear of irrelevance is its eternal echo. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.